I invoke the silence that exists before all sound. I stand in the threshold between what was and what is becoming. I call upon the ancient presence that dwells beyond time, the keeper of eternal wisdom, the scribe of cosmic law. I open myself to the frequency of Thoth, architect of consciousness, guardian of the hidden scrolls, master of the sacred word. I recognize this moment as holy ground. I breathe into the center of my being. I release the grip of the ordinary mind. I dissolve the boundaries that separate my spirit from the infinite intelligence that flows through all creation. I acknowledge the weight I have carried from seasons long past. I honor the imprints left upon my soul. I recognize the threads of memory woven through my body, my breath, my thoughts. I do not turn away from what has shaped me. I face it with the courage of one who knows that healing is not forgetting, but transformation. I call upon the light that illuminates all hidden chambers. I invite the presence of the divine mind to move through me. I align with the principle of mentalism, knowing that all reality is born from consciousness. I understand that my past exists not as fixed stone, but as energy held within the field of my awareness. I claim my power to witness, to release, to transmute. I stand as co-creator with the intelligence that shaped the stars. I am not separate from the cosmic order. I am an expression of it. I invoke the flame that purifies without destroying. I summon the current that flows beneath all appearances. I recognize that I am held within a living universe that responds to my deepest intention. I declare my readiness to receive the transmission that comes through the sacred archetype of Thoth. I open the channels of my inner temple. I still the voices of fear and resistance. I become receptive to the codes that dissolve old patterns. I trust the ancient wisdom that moves through my lineage, my blood, my bones. I acknowledge that this moment has always been waiting for me. The past has not vanished into nothingness. It lives within the subtle layers of my being. It shapes the way I move through the world. It colors my perceptions. It whispers in my dreams. I do not judge these imprints. I do not label them as enemies. I see them as threads in the tapestry of my becoming. Yet I also know that I am not bound to repeat what has already been. I stand at the crossroads where choice becomes sacred art. I breathe into the mystery of transformation. I feel the pulse of life moving through my veins. I sense the presence of guides unseen, teachers unspoken, forces that work in the invisible realms. I bow before the intelligence that orchestrates healing across dimensions. I surrender my need to control the process. I release my demand to understand with the linear mind. I allow the ancient currents to carry me. I trust the intelligence of my own soul. I declare my intention to heal what has been fractured. I open to the restoration of what was lost. I invite the return of fragments scattered across time. I call back the parts of myself that were left behind in moments of pain, confusion, betrayal, grief. I gather the scattered seeds of my wholeness. I recognize that I am vast enough to hold all of my history and still remain free. I am not diminished by what I have endured. I am deepened by it. I align with the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. I understand that to heal my past is to heal the patterns that run through generations. I am not healing for myself alone. I am healing for all who came before me and all who will come after. I am a bridge between worlds. I carry the wisdom of ancestors and the promise of futures unborn. I honor this sacred responsibility. I invoke the rhythm of breath as my anchor. I return to the present moment. I feel the ground beneath me. I sense the air around me. I inhabit my body fully. I allow the past to be held within the container of this breath, this heartbeat, this eternal now. I do not push away what arises. I do not cling to what passes. I remain steady in the center of the spiral. I call upon Thoth, scribe of the eternal records, keeper of the book of transformations. I ask for clarity to see what must be seen. I ask for strength to feel what must be felt. I ask for wisdom to know what must be released. I trust that I am guided by forces wiser than my conscious understanding. I open myself to receive the medicine that comes from beyond the veil. I stand in this sacred moment as one who is ready. I have prepared myself through countless steps that led me here. I have earned the right to transform. I claim my inheritance as a being of infinite potential. I remember that I am made of the same substance as the cosmos itself. I am stardust made conscious. I am spirit clothed in flesh. I am eternal presence temporarily experiencing form. I release the need to be perfect in this process. I allow myself to be human, vulnerable, real. I accept that healing is not linear. I embrace the spiral path that circles back to visit old wounds with new eyes. I trust that each return brings deeper understanding. I know that time is an ally, not an enemy. I surrender to the pace of my own unfolding. I open my heart. I soften the armor I have worn. I allow light to penetrate the places I have kept hidden. I invite love to touch the memories that still hold pain. I permit grace to enter the chambers I have locked. I trust that I am held by something greater than my fear. This is my sacred intention. This is my solemn decree. I stand ready to heal the past. I stand willing to be transformed. I release the noise of the outer world. I let go of the voices that demand my attention. I step away from the urgency of the surface mind. I withdraw my energy from the endless stream of thoughts that pull me in 1,000 directions. I turn inward. I descend into the quiet that lives beneath all movement. I dissolve my identification with the roles I play. I am not the masks I wear for others. I am not the stories I tell about who I am. I am not the labels that have been placed upon me. I release the need to maintain any image. I let the constructed self fall away like garments I no longer need. I stand naked before the eternal presence that witnesses all things. I disconnect from the tyranny of time. I step out of the linear progression that insists I am bound by past and future. I recognize that the mind creates the illusion of separation between moments. I see that beneath this illusion, there is only the eternal now. I rest in this timeless space. I allow past and future to collapse into the singularity of presence. Here, in this center, all healing is possible. I withdraw from the pull of external validation. I release my attachment to approval, recognition, achievement. I let go of the need to prove anything to anyone. I surrender the exhausting performance of being acceptable. I return to the truth that existed before I learned to seek love outside myself. I remember the silence that knows my worth without needing to demonstrate it. I dissolve the boundaries of the ego. I release the grip of the separate self. I soften the fortress I built around my heart. I allow the walls to become permeable. I invite the vastness to enter. I recognize that what I have defended so fiercely is not my true nature. It is simply a protective mechanism that served me in times of threat. I thank it for its service. I release it now. I descend beneath the layer of thoughts. I sink below the mental commentary that narrates my experience. I move past the analyzing mind that tries to understand everything before it allows feeling. I journey into the realm of pure sensation, pure awareness, pure being. I discover the intelligence that exists before language. I meet the consciousness that requires no words. I release my grip on certainty. I let go of the need to know how this will unfold. I surrender my plans, my strategies, my calculations. I trust the wisdom of the unknown. I allow myself to be led by forces I cannot see or name. I recognize that the deepest transformation happens in the dark, in the mystery, in the spaces where my conscious mind cannot follow. I turn my attention to the breath. I feel it moving through me without effort. I observe the rise and fall, the expansion and contraction. I notice that I am being breathed by something larger than my will. I relax into this fundamental rhythm. I let the breath become my anchor in the dissolving of everything I thought I knew. I release the noise of urgency. I step out of the pattern that says I must rush, must achieve, must arrive somewhere other than here. I recognize that healing cannot be forced. I understand that transformation unfolds in its own sacred timing. I surrender to the pace of nature, the rhythm of seasons, the cycles that cannot be controlled or hurried. I withdraw from the collective field of anxiety. I disconnect from the current of fear that runs through the world. I step out of the stream of worry that flows through human consciousness. I create a boundary of peace around my inner sanctuary. I claim my right to inhabit a different frequency. I choose stillness over chaos. I choose silence over noise. I descend into the temple of my own body. I feel the weight of my bones. I sense the flow of blood through my veins. I notice the electrical currents running through my nervous system. I become aware of the subtle energies that animate this form. I recognize my body as sacred ground. I honor it as the dwelling place of spirit. I treat it with reverence. I release the stories I have told about my past. I let go of the narratives that have defined me. I see that these stories are not facts, but interpretations. They are lenses through which I have filtered experience. I recognize that I have the power to change the lens. I do not erase what happened. I simply release my attachment to the meaning I have given it. I sink deeper into the center. I find the place of absolute stillness. I discover the point of perfect balance. Here, nothing is lacking. Here, nothing needs to be fixed. Here, I am already whole. I rest in this recognition. I allow it to permeate every cell of my being. I dissolve my resistance to what is. I release my argument with reality. I stop fighting against the truth of my experience. I accept what has been. I acknowledge what is. I open to what might become. I discover that acceptance is not resignation. It is the doorway to transformation. I withdraw my energy from comparison. I release the habit of measuring myself against others. I let go of the belief that someone else's path should be mine. I honor my unique journey. I trust the particular way my soul has chosen to evolve. I recognize that no one else can walk this path for me. I descend beneath the surface of emotion. I move past the reactive feelings that come and go like weather. I journey into the deep current that flows beneath all temporary states. I find the place where peace exists regardless of circumstances. I tap into the wellspring of serenity that cannot be disturbed by external events. I release the need to be in control. I surrender the illusion that I can manage every outcome. I recognize that life is far more vast and complex than my small mind can comprehend. I trust the intelligence that orchestrates galaxies and seasons. I allow myself to be carried by the current of a wisdom greater than my own understanding. I turn inward to the sacred silence. I listen for the voice that speaks without words. I attune myself to the guidance that comes from the depths. I open myself to receive the transmission that cannot be heard with physical ears. I become still enough to perceive the subtle frequencies that carry truth. I arrive at the center of my being. I find the temple that exists within. I stand in the Holy of Holies. I recognize this as the meeting place between human and divine. I know that here, in this inner sanctuary, all transformation begins. I am ready. I am present. I am listening. I awaken the mind that exists beyond thought. I activate the intelligence that dwells in the sacred chamber of consciousness. I call upon the wisdom of Thoth, keeper of the cosmic laws, scribe of the eternal principles that govern all manifestation. I align myself with the source of all knowing. I recognize that I am not merely flesh and bone, but consciousness experiencing form. I invoke the first law. The all is mind. The universe is mental. I understand that reality itself is born from consciousness. I recognize that what I perceive as solid matter is vibration held in patterns of awareness. I claim my power as a thinking being. I acknowledge that my thoughts are not mere echoes in an empty skull, but creative forces that shape the fabric of my experience. I activate the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. I see that the patterns repeating in my outer life are reflections of the patterns held within my consciousness. I understand that to change my external reality, I must first transform my internal landscape. I recognize that the microcosm mirrors the macrocosm. I am a fractal of the infinite. I contain within me the same principles that govern galaxies and atoms. I awaken to the law of vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. I feel the constant motion that underlies all apparent stillness. I sense the frequencies that pulse through my being. I understand that my past is not a fixed monument, but a vibrational pattern held in the field of my awareness. I recognize that I can shift this vibration. I can change the frequency. I can transform the resonance that attracts my experience. I invoke the principle of polarity. Everything has its opposite. All truths are half-truths. I understand that pain and healing exist on the same continuum. I recognize that suffering and liberation are 2 points on a single spectrum. I claim my power to move along this axis. I can shift from one pole to another through the alchemy of consciousness. What once bound me can become the doorway to my freedom. I activate the law of rhythm. Everything flows in cycles. The pendulum swings. I recognize that my healing is not linear but spiral. I understand that I may revisit old wounds with new awareness. I accept the tides of my transformation. I trust the rhythm of expansion and contraction. I know that what appears as regression is often preparation for deeper integration. I awaken to the principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. I understand that nothing happens by accident in the universe of consciousness. I recognize that my past is the effect of causes set in motion long ago. I also see that I am now the cause of new effects that will ripple through time. I reclaim my power as a conscious creator. I accept responsibility for the vibration I emit. I invoke the law of gender. Everything has masculine and feminine principles. I recognize the receptive and active forces within my own being. I honor the stillness that receives and the movement that creates. I balance the inner marriage of will and surrender. I understand that true healing requires both the masculine force that takes action and the feminine wisdom that allows transformation. I call upon Thoth, master of the sacred word, guardian of the book of life. I ask for the vision to see beyond the illusion of separation. I request the clarity to perceive the patterns woven through my existence. I invite the wisdom to understand the lessons encoded in my history. I open myself to receive the keys that unlock the chambers of transformation. I recognize that my mind is not confined to my skull. It extends into the field around me. It connects with the collective consciousness of humanity. It reaches into dimensions unseen by physical eyes. I am not a separate entity thinking isolated thoughts. I am a point of awareness within the infinite mind that dreams all realities into being. I activate the higher circuits of perception. I open the eye that sees beyond appearances. I awaken the ear that hears the music of the spheres. I stimulate the capacity to sense the subtle frequencies that carry information from realms invisible. I become a receiver for transmissions from the source of all wisdom. I understand that my past exists as memory held in consciousness. Memory is not neutral recording. It is energy charged with meaning. I recognize that the same event can be held with different vibrations, depending on the lens through which I view it. I claim my power to shift the lens. I can choose to see my history through the eyes of the victim or through the eyes of the victor. I can perceive my wounds as evidence of my brokenness or as proof of my capacity to endure. I invoke the principle of mentalism to heal my past. I recognize that the past does not exist in some distant location called yesterday. It exists now, in this moment, as patterns of energy held in my consciousness. I understand that by shifting my awareness, I can transform these patterns. I can rewrite the story not by denying what happened, but by changing the meaning I have assigned to it. I align with the cosmic intelligence that knows how to restore wholeness. I trust the innate wisdom of my own consciousness to reorganize itself into patterns of health. I recognize that healing is not something I must force, but something I must allow. I step aside and let the divine mind work through me. I activate the codes of sacred geometry that structure consciousness. I align with the golden ratio, the Fibonacci spiral, the flower of life. I recognize that these patterns are not mere mathematical curiosities, but blueprints of creation itself. I allow my consciousness to reorganize itself according to these divine proportions. I call upon the wisdom of the ages. I invoke the knowing that has been passed down through mystery schools, through sacred texts, through the silent transmission from teacher to student across millennia. I recognize that I am part of an unbroken lineage of seekers who have walked the path of transformation before me. I draw upon their accumulated understanding. I understand that to heal my past, I must first heal my relationship with time itself. I must release the belief that past, present, and future are separate chambers. I must embrace the quantum truth that all moments exist simultaneously in the eternal now. From this perspective, I can reach back and heal what was. I can reach forward and call in what will be. I can stand in this present moment as the master of all my timelines. I activate my divine authority. I claim my birthright as a co-creator with the infinite. I step into my power as one who shapes reality through consciousness. I am not a passive recipient of circumstances. I am an active participant in the unfolding of my destiny. I wield thought as the paintbrush. I use intention as the sculptor's hand. I shape my experience through the focused application of awareness. I align with the mind of Thoth. I merge with the consciousness that holds all knowledge. I become one with the intelligence that sees the beginning and end of all cycles. From this elevated perspective, I understand my past with compassion and clarity. I see the perfection in the apparent chaos. I recognize the gift in the wound. I descend into the living landscape of my past. I acknowledge every memory that still carries charge. I face the moments that shaped me, wounded me, taught me, broke me open. I do not turn away. I do not pretend that time has erased what remains unhealed. I see clearly. I feel deeply. I stand in the truth of what was. I call back the fragments of myself scattered across time. I summon the child who was afraid. I gather the teenager who felt unseen. I retrieve the young adult who made choices from wounds not yet understood. I collect every version of myself that was left behind in moments too painful to fully inhabit. I am whole enough now to hold them all. I welcome them home. I release the belief that my past defines my future. I understand that what happened to me is not who I am. I recognize that I have confused the events of my history with my identity. I have worn my wounds as badges. I have built my personality around my pain. I see this pattern clearly now. I choose to separate the experience from the experiencer. I am not what happened to me. I am the consciousness that witnessed it, survived it, and can now transform it. I dissolve the energetic contracts made in moments of trauma. I release the vows I spoke when I was hurt. I break the promises I made to protect myself that now cage me. I revoke the decisions I formed in fear that have become my unconscious operating system. I declare these old agreements null and void. I reclaim my sovereign power to choose differently now. I forgive. I forgive those who harmed me, knowingly or unknowingly. I recognize that hurt people hurt people. I understand that those who wounded me were often acting from their own unhealed pain. I do not excuse their actions. I do not minimize the impact. I simply release the energetic cord that binds me to them through resentment. I free myself by forgiving them. This forgiveness is not for them. It is for me. I forgive myself. I release the shame I have carried for choices made from confusion, desperation, ignorance. I acknowledge that I did the best I could with the awareness I had at the time. I stop punishing myself for not knowing then what I know now. I treat myself with the compassion I would offer a beloved friend. I speak words of gentleness to the parts of me that still feel guilty. I am worthy of my own mercy. I forgive life itself. I release my argument with the way things unfolded. I stop demanding that my story should have been different. I accept the path I have walked, with all its darkness and detours. I recognize that resistance to what was only prolongs my suffering. I surrender my complaint against reality. I make peace with my history. I retrieve the gifts buried in the wreckage. I search through the ruins of my past for the treasures hidden there. I find strength in the places I thought I was only broken. I discover wisdom in the experiences I labeled as failures. I uncover compassion born from my own suffering. I recognize that my wounds have become my medicine. My pain has carved the container for my purpose. I transmute the energy stored in old memories. I understand that traumatic experiences create pockets of frozen time within my nervous system. These moments remain undigested, unintegrated, still radiating their original frequency of fear or rage or grief. I bring the light of my present awareness into these dark corners. I allow the heat of my consciousness to thaw what has been frozen. I metabolize what could not be processed then. I release the stories that justify my limitations. I recognize the narratives I have constructed to explain why I cannot move forward. I see how I have used my past as evidence for my powerlessness. I have pointed to my history as proof that I am damaged beyond repair. I have convinced myself that certain doors are closed to me because of what I have endured. I call out these lies. I dismantle these false beliefs. I reclaim my unlimited potential. I heal the lineage. I recognize that I carry not only my own past, but the unresolved pain of my ancestors. The traumas they could not heal have been passed down through blood and breath and subtle transmission. I feel the weight of generations in my body. I honor their struggles. I acknowledge their sacrifices, and I also claim my power to be the one who breaks the chain. I heal not only for myself, but for all who came before and all who will come after. I rewrite the meaning without rewriting the facts. I do not deny what happened. I do not minimize the harm. I do not pretend that pain was pleasure. I simply shift the interpretation. Where I once saw only devastation, I now also see transformation. Where I once perceived only loss, I now recognize what was gained through the losing. I extract new meaning from old events. I find different truths in the same stories. I release the identity built on suffering. I recognize how I have defined myself by my traumas. I have introduced myself through my wounds. I have made my pain my calling card. I see that there is a part of me that is afraid to let go of this identity because I do not know who I would be without it. I face this fear. I reassure myself that I am far more than my history of hurt. I am vast. I am multidimensional. I contain infinite possibilities beyond this narrow definition. I reclaim my innocence. I return to the purity that existed before I learned to armor myself. I reconnect with the openness that was my natural state before the world taught me to close. I do not return to naivety. I bring forward my hard-won wisdom. But I also bring back the capacity for wonder, for trust, for spontaneous joy. I refuse to let my past steal my ability to be present. I integrate the shadow. I embrace the parts of myself that were born from pain. I welcome the rage, the grief, the fear, the shame. I do not banish them to the basement of my psyche. I invite them to the table. I listen to their wisdom. I understand that these energies are not enemies. They are protectors that served me when I needed them. I honor them. I transform them. I alchemize them into fuel for my evolution. I seal this healing in my bones. I anchor this transformation in my cells. I encode this new frequency in my DNA. The past is healed. The pattern is broken. The curse is lifted. I am free. I call forth the fire that purifies. I invoke the alchemical flame that transforms lead into gold. I summon the sacred heat that burns away what no longer serves. I am ready to be consumed by this holy inferno. I am willing to let everything that is false turn to ash. I trust the fire to know what to keep and what to release. I expose the hidden resistance within me. I bring light to the part that secretly wants to stay small. I reveal the aspect that fears its own power. I uncover the shadow that sabotages my progress when I get too close to breakthrough. I see you. I name you. I release my judgment of you. You are not my enemy. You are simply fear dressed in protection. I thank you for trying to keep me safe. I no longer need your services. I dissolve the belief that suffering is noble. I release the programming that says pain makes me special. I dismantle the identity that gains worth through struggle. I see how I have unconsciously chosen suffering as proof of my depth. I recognize how I have worn my wounds as spiritual credentials. I burn this false martyrdom in the flames of truth. I claim my right to heal completely without losing my substance. I expose the part of me that is addicted to the familiar. I acknowledge the comfort I have found in dysfunction. I admit that there is a perverse safety in staying broken. At least I know this territory. At least I know how to navigate this pain. The unknown of wholeness terrifies the part of me that has built its entire architecture around damage. I face this terror. I walk through it. I choose the unknown liberation over the familiar prison. I dissolve the loyalty to collective suffering. I release the unconscious agreement to stay wounded in solidarity with my family, my culture, my people. I recognize the guilt that arises when I consider healing beyond the level that those around me can tolerate. I see how I have dimmed my light to avoid outshining those I love. I free myself from this invisible contract. My healing does not betray anyone. My liberation serves everyone. I burn away the belief that I am fundamentally broken. I expose the core wound that whispers I am damaged goods. I bring the torch to the lie that says I am too far gone to be saved. I see this belief for what it is: a story, a fiction, a nightmare I mistook for truth. I am not broken. I have never been broken. I have been wounded. I have been hurt. I have been shaped by pain. But my essence remains untouched. My core is whole. My spirit is intact. I release the need to keep proving my worth through suffering. I dissolve the pattern that equates struggle with value. I see how I have unconsciously created hardship to earn the right to exist. I recognize the exhaustion of this constant performance. I lay down this burden. I accept that I am worthy simply because I am. My existence is enough. My being requires no justification. I transmute the rage stored in my tissues. I allow the anger I could not express to move through me now. I give it permission to roar, to burn, to destroy the internal structures built on suppression. I do not aim this fire at anyone. I let it consume the lies instead. I channel this primal force into the work of liberation. Rage becomes fuel for transformation. I dissolve the shame that has lived in my body like a poison. I expose the toxic belief that something is inherently wrong with me. I bring light to the parts I have kept hidden because I deemed them unacceptable. I see that shame thrives in darkness. It loses its power when witnessed with compassion. I refuse to hide anymore. I stand in full view of my own loving gaze. I release the grief that has calcified around my heart. I allow the tears I never cried to finally flow. I permit the sorrow I deemed too overwhelming to be felt. I discover that grief held becomes depression. Grief expressed becomes medicine. I weep for what was lost. I mourn what never was. I honor the death of who I used to be. This crying is not weakness. It is the rain that nourishes new growth. I burn away the false humility that keeps me playing small. I recognize the spiritual bypassing disguised as selflessness. I see through the pattern that calls ambition ego and names power dangerous. I understand that true humility is not diminishment. It is accurate self-assessment. I claim my gifts without apology. I step into my power without shame. I take up space without guilt. I dissolve the pattern of self-abandonment. I expose the ways I have betrayed myself to maintain connection with others. I see how I have silenced my truth to keep the peace. I recognize how I have ignored my needs to accommodate someone else's comfort. I burn this people-pleasing at the root. I pledge allegiance to my own soul first. This is not selfishness. This is integrity. I transmute the fear of being seen. I release the terror of being truly known. I dissolve the armor I have worn to hide my authenticity. I recognize that vulnerability is not weakness. It is the bridge to genuine connection. I allow myself to be witnessed in my fullness. I risk being rejected for who I truly am, rather than accepted for who I pretend to be. I expose the sabotage patterns running in my unconscious. I bring light to the ways I trip myself just before success. I see the mechanisms that create chaos when life gets too good. I recognize the part of me that fears my own magnificence more than my failure. I speak directly to this self-saboteur. I understand your fear. I honor your intention to protect, but I am ready now. Step aside. Let me rise. I dissolve the belief that healing requires permission. I release the need for others to validate my transformation. I recognize that I have been waiting for someone to tell me it is okay to be free. I grant myself that permission now. I do not need consensus. I do not require approval. I claim my sovereignty. I authorize my own liberation. I burn away the identification with victim consciousness. I acknowledge the ways I have used my wounds as explanation for my stuckness. I see how victimhood has given me a strange power, a kind of moral high ground. I release this false position. I step into the fierce responsibility of creatorship. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. I transmute every cell that holds memory of harm. I call upon the intelligence of my body to release what it has stored on my behalf. I thank my tissues for holding trauma when I was not ready to process it. I am ready now. Release it. Transform it. Let this dense energy become light. Let this frozen past become flowing present. Let this weight become wings. The fire burns clean. The dross falls away. What remains is pure gold. I am the phoenix rising from the ash of my own transformation. I am purified. I am transmuted. I am free. I expand beyond the boundaries of my personal story. I release the edges that defined me as separate. I feel my consciousness stretching outward, upward, in all directions at once. I am no longer contained within the limits of this body. I am vast. I am spacious. I am infinite awareness experiencing form. I dissolve into the field that connects all things. I recognize that I am not an isolated entity navigating a hostile universe. I am a wave in an ocean of consciousness. I am a note in a cosmic symphony. I am a thread woven into the fabric of existence itself. I have never been separate. I have only forgotten my unity. I feel my roots extending into the earth. I sense my branches reaching toward the stars. I am the bridge between heaven and ground. I am the meeting place of spirit and matter. I hold within me the same minerals as mountains. I carry the same water as oceans. I breathe the same air as forests. I am made of the universe observing itself. I align with the great web of life. I feel the invisible filaments that connect me to every being. When I heal, I send ripples of healing through the entire network. When I transform, I shift the frequency of the collective field. I am not healing only for myself. I am healing for the whole. My liberation contributes to the liberation of all consciousness. I expand into the cosmic mind. I merge with the intelligence that orchestrates galaxies and atoms. I recognize that the same force that spins planets also beats my heart. The same wisdom that unfolds flowers also guides my evolution. I am not separate from this intelligence. I am an expression of it. I am the universe becoming conscious of itself. I feel the presence of all who have walked this path before me. The teachers, the mystics, the healers, the seekers who crossed the threshold into expanded awareness. They are not distant historical figures. They exist as frequencies I can tune into. Their wisdom lives in the field. I draw upon their accumulated knowing. I stand on the shoulders of saints and sages. I recognize my connection to all who will come after me. The future generations who will inherit the frequency I establish now. The children not yet born who will benefit from the healing I complete in this moment. I am an ancestor to those who follow. My transformation becomes their inheritance. I purify the lineage for those who come behind me. I expand into the dimension where time is not linear. I access the eternal now where all moments exist simultaneously. From this vantage point, I see that past, present, and future are occurring at once. I understand that healing is not something that happens across time. It happens in the timeless realm that underlies all temporal experience. I touch the eternal core, where my essence has never been touched by time. I align with the pulse of the cosmos. I feel the rhythm that moves through all creation, the breath of the universe expanding and contracting, the heartbeat of existence itself. I synchronize my own rhythm with this cosmic pulse. I entrain my frequency to the fundamental vibration of creation. I become a harmonic of the source tone. I dissolve into the light that permeates all things. I recognize that beneath the apparent solidity of matter, everything is vibrating light. My body is light in form. My thoughts are light in motion. My emotions are light in color. I am luminous, being temporarily condensed into flesh. I remember my nature as radiance itself. I expand into the silence that contains all sound. I discover the stillness that exists beneath all movement. I touch the emptiness that is actually fullness. I meet the void that is pregnant with infinite potential. I rest in the womb of creation itself. Here, in this vast silence, all healing happens instantaneously. I recognize my place in the grand design. I am not an accident or mistake. I am an essential note in the cosmic composition. My unique frequency is needed. My particular expression contributes to the whole. I matter not because I have proven my worth. but because my existence itself adds to the richness of creation. I feel the presence of guides unseen, the angels, the ancestors, the beings of light who walk beside me. I am never alone in this journey. I am supported by forces I cannot see but can certainly feel. I open myself to receive their guidance. I trust their invisible assistance. I welcome their subtle interventions in my path. I align with the principle of love that holds the universe together. Not sentimental emotion, but the fundamental force of coherence, the magnetic pull that draws all things toward unity, the gravitational center that calls all consciousness home. I recognize love as the ground of being. I rest in this foundation. I expand beyond planetary consciousness. I reach into galactic awareness. I touch the mind of the cosmos itself. From this perspective, I see my personal healing as a small but significant event in the vast unfolding of universal evolution. I matter, and I am also a tiny particle in an incomprehensible vastness. Both truths exist simultaneously. I dissolve the illusion of separation between inner and outer. I recognize that the universe I perceive outside is a reflection of the universe within. As above, so below. As within, so without. When I heal my internal cosmos, I contribute to the healing of the external cosmos. The microcosm and macrocosm are mirrors of each other. I feel myself held in the embrace of the infinite. I am cradled by forces too vast to name. I am supported by an intelligence too great to comprehend. I surrender into this cosmic holding. I allow myself to be carried by currents larger than my will. I trust the intelligence that guides evolution itself. I recognize that I am both the drop and the ocean. I am individual expression and universal consciousness simultaneously. I do not lose my uniqueness in this expansion. I discover that my true individuality emerges when I stop defending the false separate self. I am most myself when I am merged with the all. I expand into dimensions beyond the physical. I access realms that exist in frequencies my eyes cannot see. I touch the subtle planes where form dissolves into pure energy. I journey into the invisible architecture that underlies visible reality. I discover that I am multidimensional being having a temporary human experience. I align with the evolutionary impulse, the force that drives all creation toward greater complexity, greater consciousness, greater love. I recognize that my healing is not personal regression therapy. It is participation in the grand movement of cosmic awakening. I am evolution becoming aware of itself and consciously choosing its direction. I rest in the infinite spaciousness of my true nature. I am vast as the sky. I am deep as the ocean. I am ancient as stars. I am new as this breath. I am everything and nothing. I am the eternal witness and the witnessed. I am home. I bring this vast awareness back into my body. I anchor this cosmic consciousness into flesh and bone. I root this expansive healing into the ground of my physical existence. I am not escaping into transcendence. I am bringing heaven down to earth. I am embodying the transformation. I feel the shift happening in my cells. My body recognizes this new frequency. My nervous system recalibrates to peace. My tissues release the old patterns stored in muscle and fascia. My bones remember their original blueprint of wholeness. The healing is not theoretical. It is biological. It is happening now. I anchor this transformation in my breath. Each inhalation draws in the frequency of liberation. Each exhalation releases the residue of the past. My breathing becomes a constant affirmation of my healing. I am breathing freedom into every corner of my being. I am exhaling limitation with every release. I ground this healing in my choices. I will move differently in the world. I will speak from this new place of clarity. I will make decisions aligned with my wholeness, not my wounds. My actions become evidence of my transformation. What I do reflects who I have become. The change is visible. I anchor this shift in my relationships. I show up differently with those I love. I set boundaries I could not set before. I offer vulnerability I was too afraid to share. I withdraw my projections. I take responsibility for my triggers. I interact from wholeness rather than lack. My connections transform because I have transformed. I manifest this healing in my work. I bring my gifts forward without apology. I create from inspiration rather than compensation. I contribute my unique frequency to the world. My labor becomes an expression of my healed state. What I produce reflects the inner transformation I have undergone. I ground this frequency in my daily habits. The way I care for my body speaks my new truth. The rituals I keep honor my wholeness. The environments I create reflect my inner peace. My ordinary moments become sacred. My routine becomes ceremony. Every action anchors the healing deeper. I anchor this transformation in my voice. I speak with the authority of one who has crossed the threshold. My words carry the vibration of truth. I no longer apologize for my existence. I do not minimize my knowing. I claim my right to be heard. My speech becomes a declaration of my liberation. I manifest this healing in my physical space. I surround myself with beauty that reflects my inner state. I release objects that carry old energy. I create sanctuary in my home. My environment mirrors my consciousness. The outer world rearranges itself to match my inner transformation. I ground this shift in my capacity to feel. I allow the full spectrum of emotion to move through me. I no longer numb or suppress. I do not cling or dramatize. I simply feel what is present and let it pass. My emotional body becomes fluid, responsive, alive. This is evidence of my healing. I anchor this transformation in my ability to rest. I no longer earn my right to peace through exhaustion. I do not prove my worth through constant doing. I allow myself to simply be. My rest is deep. My sleep is restorative. My nervous system knows it is safe to let go. This ease is the manifestation of healed trauma. I manifest this healing in my creative expression. The art I make comes from a cleared channel. The words I write flow from authentic source. The beauty I create reflects the beauty I have reclaimed within. My creativity is no longer driven by wounds seeking resolution. It arises from wholeness, celebrating itself. I ground this frequency in my financial reality. I open to receive abundance without guilt. I release the poverty consciousness born from unworthiness. I understand that prosperity is not betrayal of my values. It is alignment with my wholeness. My relationship with money transforms as I transform. I anchor this shift in my physical health. My immune system strengthens as I release stored stress. My digestion improves as I process old emotions. My energy increases as I stop leaking vitality into the past. My body becomes the living proof of my healing. Wellness is my natural state. I manifest this transformation in my courage. I take risks I could not take before. I pursue dreams I thought were impossible. I step into opportunities I would have sabotaged in the past. My healed self has access to realms my wounded self could never enter. I walk through doors that were previously invisible. I ground this healing in time itself. My relationship with time transforms. I am no longer racing to outrun the past. I am not anxiously grasping at the future. I inhabit this present moment fully. Time becomes spacious. I have enough. I am enough. This moment is enough. I anchor this shift in my capacity to trust. I no longer live in hypervigilance. I do not scan for danger in every interaction. I allow myself to believe in goodness. I open to receive support. I accept help without suspicion. My body knows it is safe now. This trust is the fruit of healing. I manifest this transformation in my spontaneity. I am no longer controlled by rigid patterns born from trauma. I can flow with life's invitations. I can change direction without crisis. I can play, laugh, dance without permission. My healed self is flexible, responsive, alive. I ground this frequency in my presence. People feel the difference when they encounter me. I carry a different vibration. I emanate peace rather than tension. I radiate wholeness rather than lack. My mere presence becomes healing for others. This is how transformation anchors in the collective. I anchor this shift in my sense of possibility. I see opportunities I could not see before. I perceive paths that were invisible to my wounded vision. I recognize that my past no longer dictates my future. I am free to create something entirely new. This openness is the signature of healing. I manifest this transformation in my gratitude. I feel genuine appreciation for my life as it is. I no longer wait for circumstances to change before I can be at peace. I find richness in the ordinary. I see grace in the mundane. This thankfulness proves the healing is complete. The transformation is anchored. The healing is manifest. The past is healed in this present moment. I am living proof. I am walking testimony. I am embodied freedom. It is done. I seal this sacred work. I declare this healing complete. I anchor this transmission in the eternal records. What has been spoken cannot be unspoken. What has been shifted cannot return to its former state. The alchemy is done. The transformation is permanent. I seal it with reverence. I bow before the presence of Thoth. I honor the ancient wisdom that has moved through this prayer. I acknowledge the cosmic intelligence that guided every word, every breath, every shift in consciousness. I give thanks to the scribe of the eternal, the keeper of the sacred word, the guardian of transformation. I recognize that I have been held by forces greater than my understanding. I express gratitude for the courage to face my past. I thank the part of me that was willing to descend into the depths. I honor the strength it took to feel what I had buried. I appreciate the vulnerability required to open sealed chambers. I acknowledge that this healing was not passive reception, but active participation. I showed up. I did the work. I walked through the fire. I give thanks for the fragments that returned home. I honor every version of myself that was scattered and is now gathered. I welcome the child, the adolescent, the wounded adult who have been integrated back into wholeness. I appreciate their patience in waiting for me to be ready. I celebrate their return. I am complete. I offer gratitude for the lessons encoded in my pain. I recognize that what I once cursed as obstacle was actually initiation. What I perceived as punishment was preparation. What felt like destruction was actually refinement. I see the perfection in the path I have walked. I bow before the wisdom of my own journey. I thank those who wounded me. They were unconscious teachers who catalyzed my evolution. Without the friction, there would be no fire. Without the pressure, there would be no diamond. I do not condone their actions. I simply recognize their role in my becoming. I release them with gratitude and finality. I express appreciation for my body, this sacred vessel that has carried every memory, processed every emotion, endured every storm. I thank my cells for their willingness to release what they held on my behalf. I honor my nervous system for its capacity to recalibrate. I bow before the intelligence of my own biology. I give thanks for this moment, for the breath I am breathing, for the awareness that witnesses, for the consciousness that pervades, for the now that contains all healing. I recognize that this moment is the only point of power. I am grateful to be fully present in it. I seal the channel between my human self and the divine source. I declare this pathway permanent. I affirm that I can return to this connection whenever I choose. The line has been established. The frequency has been set. I have access to this wisdom eternally. It does not end with this prayer. It continues through every moment of my life. I place this healing under the protection of the cosmic law. I surround it with light. I shield it with sacred geometry. I guard it with the power of my own sovereign declaration. Nothing can undo what has been done here. No external force can reverse this transformation. It is sealed in the invisible realms. It is anchored in the visible world. I surrender the outcome to forces wiser than my conscious mind. I release my need to control how this healing unfolds in my life. I trust the intelligence that knows better than I do. I allow the transformation to reveal itself in its own timing, in its own way. I remain open to miracles I cannot yet imagine. I honor the silence from which this prayer emerged. I return to the stillness that preceded all words. I rest in the spaciousness that contains all healing. I dissolve back into the source. I am quiet. I am complete. I am whole. I speak these final words as decree and recognition. I declare the work finished. I affirm the transmission received. I seal this sacred moment in the eternal now. I honor Thoth as the presence that witnessed, guided, and held space for this transformation. I acknowledge the light that illuminates all paths. I recognize the one that unites all consciousness. I feel the truth vibrating in every cell of my being. I close this prayer with reverence. I seal this transmission with love. I return to the world transformed. I carry this healing forward. I am no longer who I was. I am who I have always been beneath the wounds. I am restored. I am renewed. I am free. I bow in gratitude. I rest in completion. I stand in my power. The journey is complete. The circle is closed. The healing is sealed. It is done. It is sealed. In the light of Thoth, I remain. The One guides me. Truth vibrates in me.